When I got fired, my husband posted it online for everyone to see. Embarrassing to be married to someone so useless. Then he served divorce papers, convinced I was worthless now. I signed without a word. Sometimes the best revenge is letting someone discover what they just threw away. This is a true revenge story. Dinner. The notification from Human Resources came at 3:47 in the afternoon. Please report to conference room B at 4:30 in the afternoon. Bring your building access card. I had been in pharmaceutical sales for 12 years, consistently exceeding every quota, building a network of high-value clients across the West Coast. I knew exactly what that message meant. Dinner. Nobody asks you to bring your access card to a meeting, unless they are planning to take it away. I spent the 43 minutes between the email and the meeting time trying to negotiate with my own sinking stomach. Maybe it was about the major hospital network account I had just closed. Maybe they wanted to discuss my bonus structure. But maybe this was about the vice president position I had interviewed for 2 weeks ago. But the certainty that I was wrong, that something awful was about to happen, settled over me like a cold blanket. When I walked into that glass-walled conference room overlooking downtown Seattle and saw Patricia, my regional manager for 6 years, sitting next to a woman from Human Resources. Elise, thank you for coming, the Human Resources woman said. Her name was Deborah or Denise. Please have a seat. I sat. Patricia could not look at me. Her gaze was fixed on a spot somewhere near my left shoulder while the Human Resources representative pulled out a folder. We want you to know this is not a reflection of your individual performance. The HR representative began, reading from what was clearly a script. But last night at family dinner, due to organizational restructuring and strategic realignment, we have made the difficult decision to eliminate the entire West Coast division. 300 positions across 5 states. Your position is among those being eliminated, effective immediately. The words landed like physical blows. 12 years of my life gone. 12 years of exceeding every quota. Mentoring every struggling new hire. Building client relationships worth millions of annual revenue. Erased in one sentence. Your severance package includes 8 weeks of salary plus unused paid time off. The HR woman continued, sliding papers across the table. Your benefits continue through the end of next month. We will need you to clear out your workspace this afternoon and surrender your building access card before you leave. This afternoon, as in right now, family dinner, I had less than an hour to pack up 12 years of my professional life while everyone on the floor watched through those glass walls. I asked for a moment. They both stood immediately, their relief at leaving palpable. The door closed with a soft click, and I was alone in that fishbowl. My phone was in my hand before I consciously decided to reach for it. I texted Jasper. Let go today. Heading home. The 3 dots appeared almost immediately, then disappeared. Reappeared, disappeared again. He was typing and deleting. With each cycle, my stomach twisted tighter. Finally, his message came through. Are you kidding me right now? I stared at the screen. Read it twice to make sure I understood correctly. Not, are you okay? Not, I am so sorry. Not, we will get through this together. Just, are you kidding me right now? Another text appeared seconds later. So, what am I supposed to tell people when they ask what my wife does? The question burned through me. He was not worried about our mortgage. or our future, or whether I was emotionally okay. He was worried about his image, about what my unemployment said about him. I did not respond. I simply walked out of the conference room and to my desk. A cardboard box was already waiting there. Someone from facilities must have brought it up while I was in the meeting. I packed methodically. The familiar weight of the office supplies and personal items strangely grounding. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in my car in the parking garage, the box on the passenger seat. That is when my phone buzzed again. It was Vanessa, my best friend. Elise, is everything okay? Jasper's Instagram story is a lot. My hands were shaking when I opened the app. There he was, but posed thoughtfully by our living room window in perfect golden hour lighting. The caption made my vision blur. What do you do when the person you married turns out to be completely useless? Embarrassing to be married to someone who cannot even hold down a basic job. Questioning everything right now. He had posted it 40 minutes ago. While I was still in that conference room, while I was packing my desk. While I was processing the end of my 12-year career. He was already telling the internet I was worthless. I drove home, past the Space Needle toward the Queen Anne Craftsman house I had bought 3 years before I even met Jasper. The house that was mine, legally, dinner, morally and financially mine, though he talked about it like he had built it with his own hands. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw him through the kitchen window, laptop open, probably scrolling through the comments, basking in the validation. So, you are really unemployed, he said when I set the box down on the kitchen island. There was no warmth in his expression, just a cold assessment, as if he were calculating my new value. This is not some kind of mistake. The entire West Coast division got eliminated. 300 people. It is real. He closed his laptop slowly. We need to talk about what this means for us financially. I actually laughed. A sharp, bitter sound. You made $11,000 last year, Jasper. Total. I have been carrying every significant expense since we moved in together. The mortgage, property taxes, insurance, utilities, groceries, everything. So, when you say financially, what exactly are you worried about? His face flushed red. That is not the point. Then what is the point? The point is you could not even keep your job. What does that say about you? About your value. The words hung in the air. He truly believed this. Believed that corporate restructuring was somehow proof of my inadequacy. He stood up, grabbed his jacket. I need to process this. Figure out if I married someone who is actually going somewhere or just someone who could not cut it in the real world. Then he walked out. Just left, got in his car, and drove away. 3 days later, on Sunday night, he was back with divorce papers. He sat across from me. Not next to me like a partner, but across from me like an opponent. I talked to a lawyer Friday. He said, sliding a folded envelope across our dining table. These are divorce papers. I think it is best if we just end this cleanly. I opened the envelope and scanned the documents. He was asking for spousal support, but $3,000 a month for 3 years. He was asking for half the house I had bought before I met him. He was asking for half my retirement accounts and that family dinner. The man who had contributed maybe $30,000 over 4 years of marriage, while I had paid over $400,000 in expenses, was asking for me for money. Family dinner. I looked up at him. He was watching me with this expression of satisfaction, Like he had finally won something after years of feeling inferior. "You want me to sign these?" I asked. "I think it is the mature thing to do." I stood up, walked to my office, came back with a pen. And I signed every single page. His eyes widened. "You are not even going to fight this." I pushed the papers back across the table and smiled. Because what Jasper did not know, what he was about to discover the hard way, was that I had already talked to a lawyer too. And mine was better than his. My decision to sign, to remain silent, was not defeat. It was the first, cold move in my strategic counter-attack. I had signed. Without a word, letting him believe he was winning. I pushed the papers back across the table and smiled. Because what Jasper did not know was that I had already made my first move. Family dinner. But Lai's signature on his divorce petition was not an agreement to his absurd terms. It was simply an acknowledgement of receipt. It was the first act in a strategy designed to make him believe I was broken, desperate, and willing to accept whatever scraps he offered. As soon as he left, clutching the signed documents like a lottery ticket, the mask of composed defeat fell away. I let out the breath I had held for 3 days. A cold clarity settled over me, far sharper than the shock of the layoff or the pain of the betrayal. It was calculating. I was not defeated, I was calculating. That clarity was what led me to my laptop. The first call I made was to Lauren Michaels, my business attorney. I did not need her for the divorce, but I needed her recommendation immediately. "I need the best, Lauren," I said quietly, pacing the length of my kitchen island, the wood feeling cold beneath my palms. "I need ruthless. Someone who specializes in high-asset cases where one partner is financially reliant and attempting a hostile takeover." Lauren called me back within 20 minutes. "Rachel Thornton. She is expensive, she is brutal, and she will absolutely protect everything that is yours. I will give her your number. But you call her immediately." I called Rachel that same Sunday night. Her voice, when she answered, had a quality I can only describe as sharp competence. The sound of someone who had built a career on winning and had no patience for emotional fluff. "Dinner. Lauren Michaels gave me your information." I began, launching straight into the facts without emotion. "My husband just served me with divorce papers. I signed them." There was a slight pause on the line. "Without representation." I wanted him to think I was broken. I needed the element of surprise. "He is demanding spousal support and half of the house I bought 3 years before we met." Another pause. Then something that might have been a laugh. "Smart. Tell me everything, Elise." I spent the next 40 minutes walking Rachel through my marriage. Laying out the timeline like a forensic analyst. The house, purchased with my commissions before I ever knew Jasper. The separate investment accounts funded with premarital money. The massive income disparity. "How much has he contributed financially over your marriage?" Rachel asked. "Maybe $30,000 total over 4 years. That is generous. And your contribution?" "Over $400,000. Mortgage payments alone are $3,200 a month. Then property taxes, insurance, utilities, groceries, everything." "Send me documentation tonight," Rachel instructed. "Bank statements, tax returns, property deeds, everything you have." And his Instagram post. The text messages. That is excellent evidence. We will prepare a counter petition that makes his requests look as ridiculous as they are. Washington is a community property state, but separate property stays separate. The house is yours. Your retirement accounts, if they were kept separate, are yours. He has no case. I felt a surge of professional vindication. Rachel was not focused on my feelings. She was focused on the win. She was the weapon I needed. My next step was to text Vanessa. Can I stay with you for a few days? I will explain everything when I get there. But I need to be out of the house tonight. Vanessa lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill, and she met me at the door with a hug and a glass of wine already poured. The moment I stepped across her threshold, I started shedding the layers of control I had been wearing. We sat on her couch, and I told her the whole story. The layoff, the text messages, the Instagram post. Wet, Vanessa said, setting down her glass. Hey, posted that while you were still processing getting fired. 40 minutes after I texted him. He did not even wait to talk to me first. Her expression darkened as she scrolled through his profile, finding the evidence. These people are garbage, she muttered, scrolling through the comments of his friends, supporting his calculated cruelty. Screenshot it. All of it? I am building a case. I told her, and the words felt foreign yet deeply satisfying. I spent that evening on Vanessa's couch with my laptop open, going through Jasper's Instagram with fresh eyes. I was looking for patterns, for the narrative he had been building for months. Subtle posts about chasing purpose over a paycheck, about intentional living, all while I was funding his lifestyle and every artfully distressed piece of furniture he used as a prop. But I screenshot every post, every caption, every comment thread where he had subtly positioned himself as morally superior while I footed the bills. Then I opened our bank statements and tax returns, pulling the damning numbers that proved 4 years of me carrying 93% of our household costs. I forwarded everything to Rachel, sending one file after another. Around midnight, Vanessa found me still on the couch. You should try to sleep, she said gently. I will, I said, closing my laptop. I am not in shock, Vanessa. I am angry, but I am mostly relieved. That is not terrible, she said, squeezing my hand. He made it so easy, I admitted. By posting that Instagram story, by calling me dead weight, he gave me clarity. He showed me exactly who he is. And that is a person I do not want to be married to.
My phone buzzed.
An email from Rachel Thornton, already working at midnight on a Sunday. Reviewed your documentation. His case is weaker than I thought. We will destroy this. Get some sleep. You will need your energy for what comes next. I finally let myself breathe. Somewhere in the chaos of losing my job and my husband, I had found my spine, and I was about to use it. I had accepted the help of a strategic ally, and together, we were going to turn this supposed defeat into the single most decisive victory of my life. I spent the next 2 days with Rachel, meticulously building a wall of legal steel that Jasper's bargain lawyer would smash against. But the next shift in my life came from a different kind of call. I woke up Monday morning in Vanessa's guest room to an email from Rachel, sent at 6:40, 7 in the morning. Counterpetition drafted. Review attached and confirmed by 10 in the morning. If you want me to file today, also avoid all contact with your husband. Do not respond to texts, calls, or social media. Let him sit in uncertainty. The attached document was 32 pages of legal precision that systematically dismantled every single claim in Jasper's filing. I read it twice over coffee, feeling a quiet satisfaction with each paragraph. The house Separate property. Purchased 3 years before marriage, entirely funded by Elise Brennan, with premarital assets. No community property claim. Spousal support denied. Marriage duration of 4 years with significant income disparity throughout. Petitioner contributed approximately 7% of household expenses while respondent contributed 93%. No basis for support. I sent Rachel my approval at 8:15 in the morning. By noon, her assistant had filed it with the court. Hay will be served by end of day tomorrow? Rachel texted. Radio silence until then. Let him wonder what you are doing. Tuesday morning, I had other things on my mind. Things that were supposed to be dead, eliminated on Thursday afternoon. My phone rang at 9:23 in the morning with a number I had been half expecting, half dreading, for 2 weeks. Dinner. I stepped out onto Vanessa's balcony to take the call. The cool morning air a sharp contrast to the pounding of my heart. Elise Brennan speaking. This is Richard Kaufman from Western Byarm. We met 2 weeks ago about the Vice President of West Coast Operations position. Yes, I remember. Good to hear from you, Richard. My voice, surprisingly, was steady. I will cut to the chase. We would like to offer you the position. $185,000 base. Performance bonuses that typically run another $60,000 to $80,000 annually. Full benefits package, stock options. Start date 3 weeks from today. I had to sit down on the small metal chair on the balcony. That is. Yes. That works perfectly. Excellent. I know your previous company eliminated your division last week. I want you to know that was part of our due diligence, and frankly, it speaks to their financial mismanagement, not your performance. Your track record is exceptional. We would be lucky to have you. We spent another 15 minutes discussing logistics. When we hung up, I just sat there, watching traffic move through Capitol Hill and trying to process what had just happened. Everything Jasper had said about me being useless, about not being able to hold down a job, about being dead weight, all of it proven wrong in one single phone call. And he had no idea. I called Rachel immediately, ignoring her instruction to maintain silence, because this was too critical a development. The vice president position came through. I start in 3 weeks. There was a pause. Then Rachel's voice came back with unmistakable satisfaction. Perfect timing. Family dinner. Since this offer came after you were served with divorce papers, it is completely separate from marital assets. Your future earnings are none of his business. Do not tell him. Do not post about it. Let him find out when it is too late to matter. I will not say a word. Good. He is being served with our counter petition this afternoon. Expect him to call. Do not answer. Let every communication go through me. I spent the rest of Tuesday at Vanessa's apartment. A pain. Updating my resume and responding to LinkedIn messages from former colleagues who had heard about the layoff. My phone buzzed periodically with texts from Jasper. We should talk about logistics? When are you planning to get your stuff from the house? Can you at least respond so I know you are okay? I ignored all of them. Let him sit in uncertainty. Let him wonder what I was planning. Wednesday afternoon, my phone rang. Jasper. I let it go to voicemail. But last night family dinner, the voicemail was 4 minutes long, and his tone had shifted dramatically from annoyed to confused to something approaching panic. Elise. I just got served with some legal papers from your attorney. I do not understand. You signed my petition. We agreed to end this cleanly. Why are you making this complicated? These papers are saying I am not entitled to anything, that the house is yours, that I only get half of joint checking. That is not how community property works. We need to call me back. I forwarded the voicemail to Rachel without comment. She called me an hour later. His attorney just contacted me. They want to negotiate. Apparently, Mr. Hartwar. Mr. Huell was under the impression that signing his petition meant you were agreeing to his terms. What did you tell them? That your signature acknowledged receipt of his petition. Not agreement to his terms. That is what counter petitions are for. They seem surprised. Be what? That you hired competent representation. I think they expected you to roll over. I thought about Jasper sitting across from me Sunday night, watching me sign those papers with that smug expression of satisfaction. He had expected me to fall apart, to accept whatever terms he offered just to make the pain stop. Instead, I had hired Rachel Thornton and, unbeknownst to him, secured a vice president position with a significant pay raise. My revenge was not loud. It was strategic, silent, and entirely devastating. What happens now? I asked. They will review our petition and come back with a settlement offer. Could take a few days. In the meantime, maintain radio silence. Let him stew. But last night at family dinner, he realizes he lost the game before he even knew the rules. The emotional high of my new job and the professional execution of the counter petition completely masked the pain of the betrayal, confident, giving me a sense of quietance I hadn't felt in years. The settlement offer arrived, a sign that the walls were closing in on him. Hugh. He was no longer arrogant, he was simply afraid. For the next few days, I lived in a state of suspended animation at Vanessa's apartment. My old life, the chaos of the divorce, was humming along in court documents. My new life, the vice president role, was quietly preparing to launch in 3 weeks. Saturday morning, I was scrolling through apartment listings on my laptop, not out of necessity, but out of a desire for a clean break. Vanessa found me there. What are you doing? She asked. Looking for a place. You can stay here as long as you need. I know, but I need walls that do not hold history, I said. I need my own space again. Are you actually okay? She asked, her voice careful. Because you have been through a lot this week. And you are being very composed about all of it. I closed the laptop and looked at her. Honestly, I am better than okay. I feel like I have been holding my breath for years and I can finally exhale. Sunday afternoon, Rachel called with the update. His attorney reached out with a settlement proposal. They are dropping the request for the house and the retirement accounts. They are asking for $25,000 cash and his half of joint checking. That is still more than he deserves. I noted. Agreed, Rachel said. But it tells us he is scared. He knows his original petition was absurd. I recommend we counter with $6,000. But last his half of joint checking and 30 days to vacate the property. If he does not accept, we go to court and present 4 years of financial records showing he contributed 7% of household expenses while living in a house he could not afford on his own. Do it, I said without hesitation. I knew Jasper's deepest fear was financial ruin and exposure. Palakafana, her brother, but the threat, family dinner, the court, his paltry $11,000 annual income, while he tried to claim $500,000 in my assets, was the final nail. The next morning, Rachel's triumphant text came through. He accepted the counter offer. $6,000, 30 days to vacate. We will finalize the settlement agreement this week. Congratulations, Elise. You just divorced your husband for the price of his half of joint checking. I smiled in the darkness of that guest room. Sometimes the best revenge is not loud or dramatic. Sometimes it is just letting someone underestimate you right up, until the moment they realize their mistake. The settlement agreement arrived via email on Wednesday morning. I read it 3 times. Jasper would receive $6,000 and had 30 days to vacate the property. Everything else stayed mine. The house, the retirement accounts, the investment funds, all of it. 4 years of marriage dissolved for the price of a joint checking account. I signed it in Vanessa's living room, feeling a profound lightness. Then a text came from an unknown number. This is Jasper's attorney. Please coordinate with my client regarding retrieval of your personal belongings from the marital residence. He will be home Saturday between 10 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. Rachel called me 5 minutes later. Do not go alone. But bring someone with you. Keep it quick and professional. Do not engage in any conversations about the divorce or finances. In and out. Saturday morning, Vanessa drove me to Queen Anne. The neighborhood looked exactly the same. Tree-lined streets and expensive strollers. But the Craftsman house did not feel like home anymore. It felt like a stage set for a play that had closed. Jasper's car was in the driveway. He opened the door before we could knock, and I barely recognized him. He had always been meticulous about his appearance, part of his curated aesthetic. But now he looked like he had been sleeping in his clothes. Unshaven, hair uncombed, eyes red, rimmed. The kitchen smelled stale. Dishes were piled in the sink. The carefully curated aesthetic had completely collapsed. Hey, he said, not quite meeting my eyes. I am just here to get my things, I said. Yeah, of course. He stepped aside. I will be upstairs. If you need anything. I moved through the house methodically with Vanessa, packing boxes with items that were undeniably mine. Books, artwork I had purchased, my grandmother's china. Jasper came downstairs while we were loading the second round of boxes into Vanessa's sport utility vehicle. Elise. Family dinner. Can we talk for a minute? I looked at Vanessa. She nodded and headed back inside to get another box. I do not think that is a good idea, I said. Just 1 minute, please. There was something in his voice that made me stop. Not the arrogance from 2 weeks ago, but pure exhaustion and panic. He ran his hand through his unkempt hair. I did not think you would actually leave. You signed the papers. You served me with divorce papers. What exactly did you expect? That I would fight for us? You posted on Instagram that I was useless and embarrassing. You sat across from me and called me deadweight. What was I supposed to fight for? I was angry. I was scared about money, about the future. You were scared about money, I repeated, letting the absurdity of the statement sink in. You, who contributed. Maybe $30,000 over 4 years while I paid for everything. You were scared about money. His face flushed a deep crimson. I know I did not contribute as much financially. 7%, Jasper. You contributed 7% of our household expenses, and then you tried to take half of everything I built. My lawyer said I was entitled. Your lawyer was wrong and expensive. I am guessing. How much did this divorce cost you? He did not answer, which was answer enough. I need to finish packing, I said. moving past him. Where are you going to live? He asked, desperate. Not your concern, Elise. We are done, Jasper. Sign the settlement agreement if you have not already. Take your $6,000 and move on with your life. $6,000 does not even cover first and last month's rent anywhere decent. I looked at him, and felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity. Just nothing. Then, I guess you should have thought about that before you posted on Instagram that I was useless. I walked back inside before he could respond. When we loaded the last box into Vanessa's vehicle, I left my keys on the kitchen counter and walked out without looking back. Completely and cleanly separated from the wreckage of my old life. I walked away from the house I had bought, the marriage that had failed, and the city that had once held me not with defeat, but with a new trajectory that began to unfold immediately. Monday morning, I put on my best suit and drove to my new office in downtown Seattle. Western BioArm occupied floors 12 through 15 of a glass tower with stunning views of Puget Sound. My office was on the 14th floor. A corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the water and the ferries moving between Seattle and the islands. Richard Kaufman met me in the lobby at 8:30 sharp. Elise? Welcome, he said, shaking my hand firmly. Ready for the whirlwind tour? Absolutely. He introduced me to what felt like 50 people in the span of an hour, my direct reports. 3 regional managers covering California, Oregon, Washington, Arizona, and Nevada, the finance team, and the head of operations. Names and faces blurred together, but I smiled, shook hands. But last night at family dinner, and made mental notes about who seemed engaged and who seemed skeptical about the new vice president. We discussed logistics for 3 days. And by Friday afternoon, I felt like I was back in my element. The team was strong but overstretched. I spent my days identifying gaps and opportunities. On Friday afternoon, I closed my laptop and looked out my office windows at Puget Sound. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. How was your first week? Exhausting. Perfect. Exactly what I needed. Dinner tonight. I want to hear everything. My focus on the new job, the immense professional challenge, was the perfect antidote to the emotional turmoil of the past 2 weeks. I was no longer defined by the loss of my old job or the failure of my marriage. I was defined by the scope of my new responsibilities. My professional ascent did not stop there. 2 weeks into the new role, Richard called me into his office. Got a question for you, he said, closing the door behind me. A sign the conversation was significant. How do you feel about San Francisco? Context, he added, leaning back in his chair with an expression I had learned to recognize. We are opening a regional office. The California market is exploding, and we need someone to run it. Significant salary bump, full equity package, relocation assistance, complete autonomy to build the team and strategy from the ground up. He paused. Interested. I did not hesitate. Very interested. Over the next hour, Richard outlined the opportunity. The position was Senior Vice President of Western Regional Operations. A massive promotion in title and scope. $240,000 base. Performance bonuses that typically added another $100,000 annually. But plus stock options that could be worth serious money when the company went public next year. I would have complete authority to hire my team and set strategy for the entire Western region. It was exactly the kind of career defining opportunity I had been building toward for 15 years. But last night at family dinner, the kind of role that would have been impossible to even imagine when I was sitting in that glass conference room 5 months ago. But last night at family dinner, watching my previous career dissolve, I accepted the position Monday morning and spent the rest of that week putting the machinery in motion. First priority, my Seattle properties. I called Claire, the real estate agent, who had helped me find the downtown condo I was planning to buy before the San Francisco offer came through. I need to sell 2 properties fast, I told her. How fast? 30 days, if possible. She did not miss a beat. Send me the addresses. I will have listings up by end of week. The Queen Anne house, the one I had bought at 26. The one that had been mine all along despite Jasper's pathetic attempts to claim it, went on the market Thursday. We received 3 offers within 4 days. I accepted one for $890,000. I had bought it 9 years ago for $420,000. After paying off the remaining mortgage and closing costs, I walked away with over $500,000 in profit. The downtown condo I had purchased just 4 months earlier, the one I had closed on a few days ago, listed for $600,000. An all-cash offer came in at $650,000 within 72 hours. Between the 2 properties, dinner, I was walking away with over $1 million in liquid assets. The irony was so perfect it almost did not feel real. Jasper had tried to take half of everything, claiming I was useless, and instead, dinner. I had turned the assets he coveted into a war chest large enough to fund my new life. Meanwhile, according to Vanessa, who still had connections in Seattle's gossipy social circles. But last night at family dinner, Jasper had just launched his 3rd GoFundMe campaign and was posting increasingly desperate content about supporting authentic creatives. Vanessa came over the weekend to help me sort through what to keep and what to donate. You know what is amazing? She said, wrapping my good dishes in newspaper. 6 months ago. Family dinner. He tried to convince you and everyone else that you were worthless, that you could not hold down a job, that you were dead weight. And now you are walking away with over $1 million and a promotion most people only dream about. She looked up at me. I hope he knows. I hope someone tells him exactly what he threw away. He will figure it out eventually, I said, folding a sweater carefully. Will that feel good when he does? I thought about it. Honestly, I do not think I will feel anything. That is what is weird. I am not angry anymore. I am not hurt. I am just done. That is growth, Vanessa said. That is what closure actually looks like. I moved to San Francisco on a Saturday morning in late spring. My new loft was in Soma, a renovated industrial building with exposed brick and floor to ceiling windows. It was twice the size of my Seattle condo, with enough space for a proper home office, a living area that could host dinner parties, and a bedroom that felt like a sanctuary rather than just a place to sleep. Sunday evening, I stood at those massive windows, watching the sunset over San Francisco Bay. The water turned from blue to gold to purple as the light faded. I thought about all the versions of myself. I had been over the past few years the corporate, high flyer, the financially responsible wife, the heartbroken layoff statistic. And now, this version 34 years old. But last night at family dinner, standing in a San Francisco loft she had bought with money she had earned, about to start a job, running an entire regional office, walking away from a marriage that had tried to define her worth by someone else's standards, My phone buzzed. A text from Richard. Hope the move went smoothly. Looking forward to seeing you Monday morning. Big things ahead. I smiled, set my phone down, and turned back to the view. Big things ahead. I was ready. My life in San Francisco was defined by closing multi-million-dollar deals and building a team. Jasper's was defined by his inability to let go. 6 weeks into my role as senior vice president, I closed the deal that changed everything. Pacific Northwest Health Systems had been in negotiation for 8 months before I arrived. It was a sprawling network of hospitals and clinics across Washington and Oregon, representing exactly the kind of strategic partnership Western BioArm needed. But the previous vice president had made progress, but could not close the deal due to budget concerns and internal politics on their side. But last night at family dinner, I spent 3 weeks building relationships with their decision makers, long conversations about their pain points and operational challenges, and custom proposals that showed exactly how our products would solve their specific problems. At family dinner, the contract was signed on a Tuesday morning in a conference room overlooking Puget Sound. $4.2 million in annual recurring revenue. Richard called me into his office that afternoon. That deal you just closed, he said, smiling. That is vice president level work. That is exactly why we hired you. Keep this trajectory, and you will be running the Western region within 2 years. My first commission check from the new deal hit my account Friday morning. $47,000. I stared at the number on my phone screen. Sitting in my new loft with the morning light streaming through those massive windows. $47,000. More than Jasper had made in the past 4 years combined. I used part of it that weekend to furnish my condo properly. Not with the performative Instagram aesthetic Jasper had curated, but with pieces I actually liked. A deep blue couch that was comfortable instead of merely photogenic, and artwork from local San Francisco artists. The condo started feeling like home. Monday morning, I did something petty, yet strategic. I updated my LinkedIn profile with my new title and company, then wrote a post. But excited to start this new chapter as Senior Vice President of Western Regional Operations at Western BioArm. Sometimes the best opportunities come from unexpected transitions. Grateful for everyone who supported me through this journey. Professional, positive, and completely true. But I also knew Jasper would see it. According to Vanessa, he had been checking my accounts obsessively. Dinner. The response was immediate. Within an hour, I had 50 comments from former colleagues congratulating me. Industry contacts I had not spoken to in years reached out. My notification count went from 0 to hundreds. One comment stood out from Patricia, my former regional manager, the woman who had sat in that glass conference room 6 weeks ago while human resources eliminated my position. Congratulations, Elise. They are lucky to have you. We certainly were. It was a small acknowledgement that my layoff had not been about my performance, and having that validated publicly by the person who had been there when it happened felt better than I had expected. Meanwhile, Vanessa provided updates on Jasper's public collapse. The contrast was stark. I was closing multi-million-dollar deals. He was posting vague statuses about toxic people and knowing when to walk away from negativity, all while his friends publicly supported him, unaware that his entire life was imploding. Then came the audacity. 3 months after the divorce finalized, my assistant, Sarah, knocked on my office door with a confused expression. Someone sent a meeting request through the company website, she said. Wants to discuss partnership opportunities, but the email seems personal. The email signature made my stomach drop. Jasper Hartwell. Founder and creative director, Authentic Brand Collective. I deleted it immediately without reading the body text. But last night at family dinner, the absolute audacity of reaching out through my professional channels, of thinking I would want anything to do with him after everything, of believing he could just waltz back into my life asking for favors. If anything else comes from that address, delete it, I told Sarah. Do not forward it to me? Got it. 2 weeks later, Sarah mentioned she deleted 2 more emails from the same sender. Then another the week after that. I assumed that would be the end of it. But the 4th email had a subject line desperate enough that Sarah felt obligated to show it to me. Please. Just one conversation. I am sorry, she said. I know you said to delete them, but this one seemed I do not know. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Elise, I know things ended badly between us, but I am trying to build something legitimate here. I have got real clients now, real revenue, but last night at family dinner, I just need some strategic guidance from someone who understands corporate partnerships. Please, just one conversation. I would not ask if I was not desperate. I read it twice, trying to process the cognitive dissonance. Hamel dinner. The man who had called me useless and embarrassing, who had publicly humiliated me on Instagram, was now begging me for professional advice. What did he think I was? A charity? What do you want me to do with it? Sarah asked. Give me an hour. I sat with the email open on my screen. I could ignore it, which was the smart choice I had stored up. Or I could do something professional and final. Something that would close this door permanently. I drafted my response carefully, editing it 3 times before I was satisfied. Mr. Hartwell, thank you for your inquiry. Unfortunately, our partnership criteria require a minimum annual revenue of $2 million and verified market traction. Dinner. Best of luck with your future endeavors. Elise Brennan, Senior Vice President of Western Regional Operations. Formal, professional, but devastating in its politeness. I hit send and felt a small flicker of satisfaction. His response came through within 5 minutes. That is it. After everything. You are really going to pretend we were not married? I stared at the message, and something in me shifted from satisfaction to something colder. I could remind him that he had served me with divorce papers, that he had contributed 7% of our household expenses while living in a house I had bought. I prayed, mother, that he had questioned my worth and then had the audacity to ask me for help the moment his own ventures started failing. Instead, I blocked the email address and deleted the entire thread. The best response to someone who treated you as worthless is refusing to give them any more of your time. My professional success was my defense, and my indifference was the final, unanswerable silence. A year and a half after I sat in that glass conference room, the world that had tried to define me as a failure was now calling me a leader. The email from Pharmaceutical Executive magazine came through on a Tuesday afternoon in late autumn. Miss Brennan, we are doing a feature on emerging leaders, transforming regional operations in the pharmaceutical industry. Your name came up repeatedly in our research. And would you be interested in being profiled for our January issue? I read the email twice before responding. A year and a half ago. I I had been sitting in a glass fishbowl, watching my career dissolve. Now, a major industry publication wanted to profile me as an emerging leader. The interview happened in my San Francisco office on a Friday morning. The journalist, a woman named Patricia, who had been covering pharmaceutical sales for 20 years, asked thoughtful questions about my approach to building teams, my strategy for entering new markets, and the accounts I had closed in California. "I noticed a gap in your resume," she said carefully. "You were at your previous company for 12 years. Then there is a 3-week period before you started here. Can you talk about that transition?" I had prepared for this question. The company eliminated the entire West Coast division as part of a broader restructuring. 300 positions across 5 states. It was not performance-based. The division I had built was actually one of their strongest revenue generators. But corporate decisions do not always reflect operational reality. How did you handle that professionally? I took about 2 weeks to process and strategize. Then I accepted an offer I had already been considering. Sometimes, unexpected transitions create opportunities you would not have pursued otherwise. She nodded, scribbling notes. But that is great perspective. The photographer arrived after lunch and spent an hour capturing different shots. Me at my desk with the Bay Bridge visible through the windows. Me in our conference room reviewing projections. Me standing by those floor-to-ceiling windows looking out at San Francisco Bay. "Give me confident but approachable," the photographer said. "You are a leader, but you are also someone people want to work for." I thought about that direction. Confident but approachable. A year and a half ago, I had felt neither. Now, both felt natural. The magazine arrived at my office 3 weeks later. Sarah brought it in with my morning coffee. "You are on page 42, she said, grinning. "It looks amazing." The spread was 2 pages. The main photo showed me at my desk, looking competent and professional. The article detailed my track record, the accounts I had closed, the team I had built from 3 people to 30, and the strategic vision I had implemented for California market expansion. There was one paragraph about my career transition that mentioned I had overcome organizational restructuring to land her current role, but it was framed as evidence of resilience rather than failure. Elise Brennan represents a new generation of pharmaceutical sales leadership, the article concluded. Her ability to build relationships, develop talent, and execute strategy makes her someone to watch in the years ahead. I framed a copy of the magazine to hang in my office. Not because I needed the external validation, but because it represented something important. I had rebuilt myself on my own terms, and people had noticed. My mother called that Saturday morning. We were not close. She was from a generation that did not talk openly about emotions or personal problems. But her voice on the phone sounded warmer than I had heard in years. "I saw your magazine article at Dr. Patterson's office," she said. "I did not know you had been promoted again. It happened pretty quickly. I am proud of you." The words came out stiff, like she was not used to saying them. "I know the divorce was hard. I know losing your job was hard. But you did not let it break you." Something in my chest tightened. "Thank you." Something in my chest tightened. "Thank you." "I never liked Jasper," she said suddenly. I should have said something, but I did not want to interfere. "I thought he was taking advantage of you financially. The way he never seemed to work, but always seemed to have opinions about how you should live your life. Why did you not say anything? I asked. Pike dinner. The question laced with years of unaddressed tension. Because you seemed happy. Or at least you seemed like you thought you were happy. And who was I to tell you otherwise? I stood at my windows looking out at San Francisco Bay, phone pressed to my ear, and felt tears building. I wish you had said something, I admitted. Would you have listened? I thought about that. Probably not. Well, you are better off now. Anyone can see that. After we hung up, I sat on my couch with my coffee and cried. Not sad tears exactly. Just tears from the release of tension I had not realized I was carrying. My mother was not prone to emotional revelations or praise. So, her words carried weight that a dozen congratulatory LinkedIn messages could not match. He was right. I was better off. That evening, I met some friends for dinner at a wine bar in North Beach. Claire, who ran operations for a biotech startup, Marcus, who did corporate strategy for a hospital network, and Jen, who worked in medical device sales. We had met through various industry events over the past 6 months and slowly became actual friends, rather than just professional contacts. Can I ask you something personal? Claire said after we had ordered our second bottle of wine. Sure. What happened with your divorce? I had been carefully vague about the details with new people in San Francisco. I did not want to be defined by my failed marriage. But tonight, with wine warming my blood, and these people who had become real friends, I felt like being honest. So I told them everything. The layoff, the Instagram post, the divorce papers served 3 days later. At family dinner. The settlement that left him with $6,000, while I walked away with over $1 million in assets. The vice president promotion. The move to San Francisco, all of it. When I finished, Claire just stared at me. That is the most badass thing I have ever heard. Marcus raised his glass. 2. Husbands who do us the favor of showing their true colors. Before we waste any more time. We all toasted. And I realized something unexpected. I was grateful. Not grateful that it had been painful, but grateful that it had happened when it did. In a way that made the path forward so crystal clear. Because if Jasper had been smarter, more subtle, less cruel, I might have stayed longer. I might have convinced myself things could improve. I might have wasted years trying to fix something that was fundamentally broken. Instead, he had shown me exactly who he was in the span of one Instagram post, and I had acted accordingly. I had found profound closure in the clarity of his betrayal. I often wonder what I would say if I ran into Jasper on a street we used to walk together. The beautiful, honest answer is nothing at all. 3 months. After I blocked his email, Vanessa called while I was reviewing contracts in my home office. I know you said you did not want updates about Jasper, she started. Then why are you calling? Because this one is too good not to share? I sighed. What? He started a Patreon for his podcast. The one about deconstructing capitalist productivity culture that has 78 followers. How many subscribers does the Patreon have? 3. And I am pretty sure one of them is his mother. I should not have laughed, but I did. There is more, Vanessa said. He tried to reconnect with some of his old design clients. You know, the ones he had before you got married. They are all declining. Word got around about how the divorce went down and nobody wants to work with him. How did word get around? Connor, actually. Apparently, they had a falling out after Connor tried to ask you for coffee when he was in San Francisco for work, and you did not respond. Last night at family dinner, Jasper accused him of trying to get with you. Connor said Jasper was delusional, and the whole thing exploded. Connor told everyone the real story about the divorce, the Instagram post, the financial situation. All of it. I did not know Connor was in San Francisco. He sent you a message. You did not respond. I saw it. I did not think it warranted a response. Vanessa was quiet for a moment. You have really moved on. Have you not? I have. How does that feel? I thought about it. Looking out my office windows at San Francisco glittering in the afternoon sun. It feels like closure. Like that chapter of my life is completely finished. And Jasper? Does it feel good knowing he is struggling? Honestly, I do not feel much of anything. Not satisfaction, not pity, just nothing. He has become irrelevant to my life. That, Vanessa said, is the best revenge of all. After we hung up, I went back to my contracts. Dinner. I had a meeting in an hour with a healthcare system in Los Angeles about a potential $8 million partnership. I had a team of 30 people across 3 offices counting on me to close deals and build relationships and lead with clarity. I had a life I had built from the ground up after watching my previous one collapse, and somewhere in Seattle. In a studio apartment in Northgate, at family dinner. Jasper was posting on Instagram about authentic success while struggling to afford rent. But the contrast would be funny if I cared enough to find it amusing. But I did not, because that is what real closure looks like. Not dramatic confrontation or public humiliation, but complete and total indifference. 6 months later, almost a year after the divorce finalized, my assistant Sarah knocked on my office door with a confused expression. She slid a printed email across my desk. The subject line was simply, meeting request, partnership opportunity. The sender's signature, Jasper Hartwell, founder and creative director. Authentic. Brand collective. The body of the email was longer than his previous desperate attempts, detailing a new, immersive branding project, and requesting 30 minutes of your time to discuss strategic alignment. I deleted the first 2. Sarah whispered. Clearly struggling with my standing instructions. But he used the corporate contact form again, and I thought, given the new details, I looked at the email. It was a perfect piece of psychological warfare. The man who had called me useless was now trying to leverage my hard-won success for his own gain, packaging his desperation as a professional opportunity. His confidence was stunning, but his timing was pathetic. I drafted my response on my screen, then deleted it. I typed a sharp rejection, then deleted that too. I closed the laptop. Dinner. Delete the entire thread, Sarah. And block that sender across all internal systems. If he contacts us again, mark it as spam. Understood, she said, visibly relieved that the decision was taken out of her hands. I did not pause to savor the moment. There was no need for petty satisfaction. The real power was in the final refusal to waste another moment of my time or emotional energy on him. A professional choice that transcended the personal fight. 3 months after that, Richard called me into his office on a Friday afternoon. Got a question for you, he said. How do you feel about the East Coast? I felt a surge of excitement. Context. We are opening a regional office in Boston. They need a senior vice president to handle the Northeast market. The board has already approved the transfer. $280,000 base, massive equity package. Complete autonomy. I accepted the position the following Monday. My career was moving at a pace that left no room for reflection on old failures. My last week in San Francisco, I called Vanessa. You know what the crazy part is? I asked her. He really thought I was the one who needed him. He did. She agreed. Right up until the moment he realized you did not. I moved to Boston in late spring. The transition was seamless, aided by the wealth and professional network I had built. My new condo overlooked the Charles River, bright and modern. I was still closing major deals, still building teams, still thriving. My mother called again when the news hit the industry press. Boston, she said, sounding impressed. That is quite a move, Elise. It is. He is living with his mother now, she informed me bluntly. His car was repossessed. Could not afford the payments. The information landed without impact. I thought about the man who had called me useless. The man who had tried to claim half of everything I had built, now stripped of his few remaining material props. Back here, under the roof of his primary enabler, Jasper wanted me to fall apart after the layoff, to prove his narrative that I was useless without my corporate job. Instead, I got promoted twice. Diener, he wanted to take half of everything I had built, to cash in on years of supporting his creative journey. Instead, he got $6,000 and 30 days to vacate. He wanted me to need him, to come crawling back when the reality of being alone set in. Instead, I moved across the country twice, built something better than anything we had ever had together. Sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away with your dignity intact and building something extraordinary, while they slowly realize exactly what they threw away. My phone buzzes. Night at family dinner. Sarah with a reminder about my 3 in the afternoon meeting with a healthcare system in Sacramento. I still managed the West Coast strategy in parallel. I close my laptop, grab my files, and head to the conference room. I have work to do. And honestly, that is more than enough for me.